Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Smita ma'am. Good morning, Arundhati ma'am. Good morning, Agastya. फुल मजे में हो सुबह सुबह. Good morning, Varun. Good morning, Faiza. Good morning, Bharat. Good morning, guys. What a day yesterday. First time in the history, market gave a gap down opening in gold. That too of 300 pips. Amazing moment. Good morning, Nilesh. Good morning, Usma. I will start the analysis in 2 minutes. Keep the charts clean. Good morning, Sudhir. Long time. Good morning, Sudhir. Definitely, it's gonna rain today. Okay. यहाँ तक को सबको पता था मूवमेंट कैसे जनरेट हुआ, राइट? सो आई एम नॉट डूइंग द डेली स्क्रीनिंग. आप लोग करके कोई भी डाउट है तो पूछो. आई विल बी allocating the movements as per the requirements to the next. Okay. So at this current state of action in 15 minutes, चलो यार डेली से ही कर देते हैं. नए लोगों को भी आसान हो जाएगा. यस. Right? In the daily transaction, what are the major things that you have to keep in mind? Definitely, the market was in the move, right? In this structure, this was my previous supply, which will be taken under the consideration. This supply got into the movement action plan with S2B1 over here, right? With S2B1 setup, the market tend to give a movement in the direction post breaking 100%. With post breaking of 100%, what do we notice? We have a 150% rejection. With 150% rejection, what is the next plan of action? Did we have a minimality? No, we didn't had a minimality. So what are the next plans? Surplus movement allocations will be taken under the considerations on the break of 200% supply. What will be the first plan of action? The first plan of action will be the entire surplus movement which is in the slot movement plan of 150%, right? So we'll mark out post the retracement point action plan. And what do we notice over here? We notice a 100% break completion. With the completion, recovery, right? With the recovery mode of action, what is currently market indicating in a daily time frame? Selling pressure, right? कहाँ तक आएगा movement? First point of action ये है 3230. Second point of action is 3172. यहाँ तक movement action plan आना है. With this, we'll come down to 4 hours. Do the mathematical calculations by yourself, guys. I'm not going to do that. With this plan of action, what are the next steps that we'll be identifying? Till this point of action, it was a buying pressure, right? ये बाइंग प्रेशर जब मूवमेंट में था, उसके बाद जो कंटिन्यूटी में सर्कमस्टांशियल मूवमेंट जनरेट होते हुए दिखी थी, इस पॉइंट ऑफ एक्शन से सेलिंग प्रेशर जनरेट होना शुरू हुआ, राइट? कीपिंग इन माइंड मार्केट वाज स्टिल इन द डायरेक्शन. वही डेली टाइम फ्रेम का टारगेट हिट नहीं हुआ था. With this, how do we look for an allocation perspective at this current point? So this is my entire supply of 4 hours. Right? With this 4-hour supply, what is the next step which will be taken under the consideration? The retracement point. The retracement point as per the previous. In this scenario, this is my previous retracement which will act as my current. So with the current retracement, do we have a break of structure? No break of structure. When there is no break of structure, what is the first plan of action? Body. With the body allocation, there is a break of structure over here. Now I will take it from the wick, right? 100% closure. With the 100% closure, 200% rejection, right? So post 200% rejection, what did market tend to do over here? Market tend to give a break and continue. In the continuity, what are the plan of actions which will be taken under the consideration? The previous supply will act as your current supply. We have a break of structure directly, so we will be taking it from the wick or we will be taking it from the body. The first action plan will be always from the body, right? With the action plan, what do we notice? We have a break of structure over here. When there is a break of structure, we'll move the allocation towards the wick allocation of 100%. With the wick allocation of 100%, what is the next step we'll be doing? We'll be marking the 150%, 200% line up. So 150% rejection was taken as per 4 hours. With this plan of action, what do we notice? The movement action plan post completion, what is the setup? We are having S to B1 setup, no doubt. With this, where will you exactly allocate? Because we are having a very high risk to reward at this current stage. So for this plan of action, will come down to 1 hour. In 1 hour, what do we notice? The action plan was very circumstantial. With the surplus movement, what did the market tend to create? Market tend to create a surplus movement. With that Excel theory, one was created. Where was that? In this entire scenario. Keeping in mind, we were in that trade as well. This is of 21st moment, day before yesterday. Right? With this, what is the major allocation things that you will be looking at? The POI range of action plan you will be looking, or you will be looking for supply allocation. At the first plan of action, we will be looking for supply allocation. In this structure, this is my first supply which will come into the play. With the first plan of action, market tend to move in the second. Continuity, 100% closure. With the 100% closure, 200% rejection. With the 200% rejection, what is the next step? The market just created a small rejection perspective of a POI and continued the movement. Right? In this scenario, what is the POI that I'll be looking? The previous one. This is my previous POI range of action, which will be acting as my current POI range. So did the market tend to be in my same zone of action plan? Yes, the market tend to be in my same zone of action plan. When it's in the same zone of action plan, what is the next step that I'll be following? I'll be following a surplus movement. Where is my surplus quantity at this stage? This is my first surplus quantity, and the entire movement of the allocation will be my second surplus movement because 200% completion. With the 200% completion and continuity, what will be the next step that you will be looking for? Allocation post the retracement plan. This is the scenario 1. This is the scenario 2. What do we look for the next? We have an allocation perspective of 50% below closure. When there is a 50% below closure, 150% and 200% will be the rejection point. What do we notice over here? Do we have a 200% rejection? With the 200% rejection, what are the next plan of actions which will be taken under the consideration? For a safer allocation, we'll be looking for a new supply from the POI range. With the POI range, market tend to take a retracement. With the retracement continuity, what do we notice? We have a rejection again. With the rejection, 150% plotology. Right? With the plotological alignment, what are the next steps that we'll be looking? Definitely market till the 150% of 4 hours market was in buying pressure, right? But all of the sudden market tend to complete and give the movement towards the selling side with a proper selling pressure in each and every candle. When there is a selling pressure in each and every candle, what are the steps that you will be looking for? You will be looking for an allocation in perspective of the previous, right? So previous allocation point will be always taken under the consideration of two movement action plan. The two movement action plan will be allotted through the POI range of actions, right? With the two movement action plan, what are the next steps which will be taken under the consideration? The considerative move will be captured with the protege of the POI. So in this scenario, this is my POI range. With the POI range, this is the wick allocation. With the wick allocation continuity in the movement. In the action plan, what is the first step? We will be allocating it with the wick because we have a break of structure. With the break of structure, market tend to continue the movement till 150 and 200%, right? With completion of 150 and 200%, what are the next steps that we'll be looking for? The next step we'll be looking at the current stage of action is we'll be reallocating the structure as preferred to the previous. In this scenario, what is my previous allocation? This is my previous demand, which will act as my current. With the current, we have a break of structure. With the break of structure, allocation will be taken under the consideration of the next. With that, what do we notice? We have a 200% rejection. With the 200% rejection, continuity of the movement. M3 scenario कल के दिन में बना था, but अभी ये continuity में है. So we'll come to that point in 15 minutes, not in 1 hour. With that 100% rejection, 100% rejection के साथ continuity, we have a breakthrough with the breakthrough allocation. With the allocation perspective, 150% and 200% rejection, right? So in this scenario, this is my 150 with the 150, 200. Right? So with 200% allocation, what are the next steps which will be taken under the consideration in the previous? The previous action plan will be acted through the each and every movement action plan. How does that each and every movement action plan comes into the play? Every demand will act as your new demand, right? When it acts as your new demand, what will be your retracement point? Your retracement point will be as per your previous. In this scenario, this was my first retracement. The first retracement got completed with the next. With the next demand, reallocation of the structure. With the reallocation of the structure, continuity of the demand, closure of 100% with closure of 100% break, right? What do we notice? There is a break of structure. With the break of structure, we'll look with the wick. With the wick of action plan, market gave a gap down opening. What is the first plan of action? 150%, right? Why 150%? We had a minimality in the zone of action plan. When there is a minimality in the zone of action plan, first target is 150%, second target is 200%, right? So this is the 1 hour circumstantial plan of evidence that we will be looking for gold. With that, let's come down to 15 minutes. While coming down to 15 minutes, what do we notice? The action plan was taken under the consideration of each and every movement. At this point of action, what is the next movement that we'll be working on? We'll be working on surplus movement. How do you look on the surplus movement? At the current rate, where was the 200% completion? The 200% completion was at 3380. So we will take the entire movement from the new demand of M3. So this is my new demand of M3, which we had taken in the consideration. This will act as my new surplus point. When it acts as a new surplus point, what is the next step of allocation that I'll be following? With the retracement allocation. When I look for a retracement allocation, what do I notice? The market tend to take a rejection from exact point of action of 100% surplus. When there is 100% surplus generated, what is the plan of action that we'll be looking for next? S2B1 setup with the S2B1 setup allocation with the S2B1 setup allocation continuity in the movement. Right? When there is a continuity in the movement, what is the plan and the structure which we'll be following over here? The plan and the structure that we'll be following is rezone allocation of S2B1. Right? In this scenario, the long trade was executed with two major action plan. What are the two major action plans? S2B1 setup and S2B2 setup. Why S2B2 setup was taken under the consideration? Candle closure, inside candle. With the inside candle, market tend to create a two candle closure, third candle, fourth candle confirmation, S2B1 setup and S2B2 setup continuity. Right? With this action plan, what is the next steps that we'll be looking for? Reallocation of the structure plan. Right? When you look for a reallocation of the structure plan, what is the first step? The previous supply will act as your current. In this scenario, this is my entire movement. What will be taken under the consideration for an allocation? What do we notice? We have a movement action plan. With the movement action plan, do we have a rejection? Yes, we do have a minimality with the minimality zone of action. What is the first plan of action that we'll be looking for? 150% and 200% rejection. In this scenario, if I draw it from nearby action plan, we have a 200% rejection over here. With the 200% rejection, what is the next step that we'll be working on? The next step of allocation will be taken under the consideration of previous. In this scenario, we have two action plans. One is the previous demand, which will act as the same over here if I mark, right? With this action plan, what is market trying to do? Market trying to complete the 100% range. 100% range complete होने के बाद continuity के साथ movement action plan. Where is market taking rejection from? 200%. Okay. So this is the plan of action that you will be following at the current state of actions. Any doubts in golds? Okay. No doubts. लैग हो रहा है, लैग हो रहा है, लैग हो रहा है. This is streaming lag नहीं हो रही है. There is no lag in the stream. Okay. So all clear, guys. We can move to BTC. कोई भी डाउट है पूछ लेना. सबका MTSL मूव कर लेना यहाँ पे. This will be 91,000 MTSL. System trailing will be at 90,000. Okay, for BTC. Coming to daily time frame, what is the first plan of action? Allocation of the POI range. With the POI range allocation, what is the step which will be following? We'll be allocating post the inducement range of action plan, correct? Post inducement range of action plan, what do we notice? We have a buying pressure. When there is a buying pressure allocation, what is the step of action plan that you will be looking? You will be identifying an internal liquidity point. So in this scenario, this is our internal liquidity point which has been showcased. With this internal liquidity point, what are my next major action plans which will be taken under the consideration? The next consideration plan of action will be the entire demand of the action which is taken till the wick, because we have a break of structure. With the break of structure, S2B1 setup, body allocation. With the body allocation, market tend to close from the same point. जैसे ही market same point of action plan से close हुआ है, what is the next steps which will be taken under the consideration? The supply. Right, with the supply action plan, retracement कितना होगा? Retracement as per the supply converted into demand. So this is my supply which will create as the demand. With the demand action plan, continuity in the movement. Right, when there is a continuity in the movement, what is the next action plan that will be considered? A rejection perspective to be identified at 100%. Do we have a rejection? Yes, we do. With the rejection perspective, the previous demand will act as your current demand. In this scenario, this is my previous. With the previous, the current will get acted. With the current act point, market tend to give a movement. With the movement action plan, doubling it, 150% rejection. With 150% rejection, we have a new allocation perspective which will be taken under the consideration of the movement. The entire movement plan of the demand will act as my new. With the new allocation point, first structure of analysis will be to the body. With the body allocation, continuity 150%. Right? The second plan of action will be taken under the consideration with the wick, because we have a break of structure. With the break of structure, the allocation will be of 200%. Right? So with the completion of 200% movement plan, what is the next steps that we'll be looking over here? We'll be looking for an allocation of a supply. At the supply movement action plan, what are the steps that needs to be taken under the consideration? The steps that needs to be taken under the consideration is previous. In this scenario, what is my previous supply? This is the entire previous supply what I'm having, which will come and act as my current with the body. Post body allocation, what is my next step of action plan that I'll be looking over here? The allocation of the demand, which is supply converted into demand. The last demand was taken under the consideration of this, which will act as my current. With the current demand action plan, there was a continuity. With the continuity, there was a break of structure. So I'll be taking it with the wick till the body. With the wick and the body, what do I be looking for? Allocating it from the structure, 80% rejection, minimality M2 created on April 12th. With April 12th, my target allocation is at 95,245, which is our mathematical number of 4 hours. Right? With this plan of action, what is the next step? If you are getting confused, you can look for a new supply allocation at the point of POI range to the next. Reallocate the structure with the break. Right? With the break of allocation, this is the point of interest one, 100% break and continuity. When there is 100% break and continuity, what is the next step that will be taken under the consideration? 150%. Right? Both the action plan is working same, and with a proper delusion allocation, with the delusion allocation, structure movement plan basis will be taken under the consideration. The POI range was built with the POI range of 4 hours, which is the POI range we'll be taking the previous. In this scenario, what is my previous POI range at this current circumstantial way? This is my entire POI range, which will act as my current. Right? What do we notice on Saturday and Sunday? The same zone of action was taken under the consideration of the movement, and the closure was as per the same. With the same allocation point, what is the first step of action that we'll be taking? The entire supply and demand will be marked through the POI range. In this scenario, this is my POI, which will be acting as my first point of action plan, which will be allotted with this setup. Break and continue. With the break and continue, 150% rejection. With 150% rejection, market tend to give a closure at 200 and continue. When there is a 200 and continue, what is the movement that we'll be looking for? We'll be looking for surplus movement. When a surplus movement gets allotted, what is the entire structure that we'll be looking at? Entire from the POI range movement till the retracement point. With the retracement point of action, reallocation of the structure through the wick allocation. With the wick allocation, there is a break of structures, so we'll be multiplying the surplus movement with the surplus movement. Where is market currently at? The market is taking rejection from 150%. Okay, with 150% on the continuity, the next target is 95 of daily time frame. With that continuation, 97 will be the next movement plan of action, right? So this is the plan which we'll be looking for the BTC swing at the current stage. With that, let's come down to 1 hour. In 1 hour, what are the major circumstantial move that you'll be looking over here? Allocation as per the each supply and demand point of interest. Right at this current stage, this is my previous supply in the act, which will be taken under the consideration. With this considerative move, the allocation of the structure will be placed with the retracement point. We have a minimality zone. With the minimality zone of act, what is the target? 150% and 200%. In this scenario, do we have a 150% rejection and 200% rejection? Yes, we do. Right, with this action plan, what are the next steps which will be taken under the consideration? Reallocation of surplus supply. When there is a reallocation of surplus supply, what is the plan of action that will be taken under the consideration? The consideration of surplus movement will be added at the point of interest to the next with the next added point of interest continuity, right? With the continuity of the movement plan, do we have the rejections? Rejections will be taken in consideration to the previous. At this stage, this was my last demand. With the last demand allocation continuity, 100% rejection. With the 100% rejection, next plan of action, there was a 100% rejection in the continuity. What do we see? It's a break. With the break of 100%, 150% allocation, right? With the 150% allocation, what is the next step of action plan that we'll be looking at? 15 minutes. What is market trying to do in 15 minutes? Do we have a minimality zone over here? Yes, we do have a minimality zone in 15 minutes. With the minimality zone, market had covered 150% range. When the market has covered 150% range, what is the step of action plan that we'll be looking at? The step action plan that we'll be looking at is restructure allocation. Right, restructure allocation of the movement is taken under the consideration to the previous. So post the setup is created, we will look for the allocation point. राइट एंड सुमित का कल का एक डाउट था जो कि यूटीसी 3 बजे की थी, राइट, जहाँ पे हमने लॉन्ग के लिए एग्जीक्यूट किया था. सो एट दिस पॉइंट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट कल के दिन में this was the zone of action plan where we are talking, right? The market tend to create a zone of action. Zone of action was taken under the previous, right? With the previous action plan, we had allotted a movement because we have a structure break. With the structure break, 150% rejection. With the 150% rejection, what do we notice? S2B2 setup was generated over here, right? With the S2B2 setup, what did the market tend to do? First candle closure, 1, 2, 3, break, right? So we had executed the trade over here in this green candle. Hope Sumit is there and his doubt is clear. Any doubts in BTC, guys? Nope, no doubts. Okay. S2 B2 setup में mother candle, inside candle, two confirmations inside the candle. Whichever side the market will break and retrace with S2 B1 setup, the continuity will be in that direction. Okay, Usma. All the members do the back testing. 1.5 years, 1.5 years of forward deliver testing, 1 month of live analysis. Then start executing the trade with small capital to build the confidence. With building confidence, execute the trades and compound the value. And जितने भी पुराने हैं जो बैक टेस्टिंग फॉरवर्ड टेस्टिंग लाइव एनालिसिस के स्टेज में हैं, please write down the doubts and ask and get it clarified. Okay. So don't hesitate to ask the doubts because you guys are in learning stage. Doubts जायज है पूछ सकते हो. Nifty view won't change. Good morning, Navin. It won't change till the time the market is in the calibration zone, right? In this scenario, the market is still in the calibration zone, so no view for swing, right? So allocation remains the same in perspective of to the next. This is the demand with the demand allocation, restructure build, minimality action plan. With the minimality action plan, 150% reduction. Okay, this is the current structure what will be following. With this, only one thing we'll be looking at the current stages. We need a pressure allocation, right? When the pressure allocation gets into the play, the market tends to give the moment, else no. Okay. The current contract attraction of April month, which is currently at this valuation. So definitely there will be a M2M which will be generated. With the M2M generation, there will be a execution towards DK point of interest because कल के दिन monthly expiry है. Sorry, second yearly expiry है. Second monthly expiry है. उसके वजह से. This is the active contracts which is there at the current stage. Okay. So let the market create a calibration zone of action plan. Then the supply will be taken under the consideration to the previous and we'll look for an allocation in perspective of the swing. Intraday mein nahi, not interested. Premiums DK होते हैं, so I will not be trading it. Intraday में definitely will do swing. Point of allocation, structure allocation, pressure allocation, liquidity calibration. हर एक चीज मैप होता है, then we will definitely look for a swing allocation point to the next. A bit confused between reallocation, the supply versus extending current supply to 150 to 100%. Do we reallocate only if the retracement is 100% to 100% of the previous demand? Yes, 200% above break structure. Then only we'll be allotting the movement action plan of the surplus, not prior to that. Okay. मत करो स्मिता मैम. Why? Simply. That's totally fine if you don't do also. Sir, in 15 minutes, there are too many green and red candles, which creates too many small supply and demand. So it is okay, or I have to select the bigger area for backtesting. Look for an allocation. POI range छोड़ के हर एक allocation match होगा. Let go with POI areas. POI range of action plan छोड़ के rest all will match. So match with that. ठीक है? ये सिंगल कैंडल 100 पिप्स की बनी है. बी वेरी केयरफुल गाइस एग्जीक्यूशन पे. राइट 120 पिप्स की सिंगल कैंडल बनी है. You basically this is for you. Okay, be very careful in allocating the movement plans. Right. So all the LTD members अगर लॉन्ग के तरफ देख रहे हो शॉर्ट का ट्रेड क्लोज मत करना. शॉर्ट का ट्रेड रनिंग में रख के लॉन्ग का ट्रेड प्लेस करना टिल द टाइम यू डोंट गेट अ सरप्लस डिमांड जनरेशन. Sorry, surplus demand. Sorry, surplus supply generation. Even for intraday, yes. Everyone's MTSL point will be at 3380. System trailing will be at 3390. Am I clear? Doesn't matter. Because I know you guys. एक एक कैंडल 100 pips की बन रही है. Definitely you guys will be looking to trade everywhere. So my saying is जो शॉर्ट ट्रेड चलना है चलने दो. लॉन्ग पॉइंट ऑफ अलोकेशन देखना है तो स्ट्रक्चर बिल्ड होने दो. स्ट्रक्चर बिल्ड होने के बाद सेटअप के साथ ही अलोकेशन. कीपिंग इन माइंड S2B1 सेटअप यहाँ पे क्रिएट हुआ है. ओके. एशियन सेशन है. 20 पिप्स मैक्स टू मैक्स 30 पिप्स दोगे मार्केट को, उससे ज्यादा नहीं. दिस इज फॉर फैजा एंड हर्षित. बी वेरी केयरफुल. I don't have problems for the people whoever is trading in smaller capital. भाई लोग बहन लोग एक चीज याद रख लो. रॉन्ग एंट्री एक भी लोगे इस सिनेरियोस में कैपिटल ब्लो कर देगा. तो पहले सीखो उसके बाद एग्जीक्यूट करो. डोंट enter or execute the trades in FOMO. Please understand that. No executions will be done in FOMO. No executions will be done without learning. No executions will be done if there is no risk to reward with the setups also. People with high capital also will follow the same rule. Short का trade में रहने के साथ साथ long का trade करोगे, that's totally fine. 100 pips ऊपर नीचे close होता है short का trade का, that's totally fine, right? Always remember this, market is running with beautiful 2000 pips, right? उसमें से 150 या 200 pips ऊपर नीचे close होता है, so that's totally fine for me. But just make sure random entries लेके SLs मत दो market. Think like a pro, not like a retailer, guys. Do the back testing, do the forward testing, do the live analysis with the live analysis execution, not prior to that. Am I clear here? हाँ, डेफिनेटली 30 पिप्स की रेंज में मिलता है तो लो, मेरे को प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. बेसिकली योर हर्षिता, द मेजर प्लान ऑफ एक्शन इज तुम यहाँ पे नहीं लेते, तुम यहाँ पे लेते हो. तो 100 पिप्स की रेंज हो जाती है, तो उस बेसिस पे बोल रहा हूँ मैं तुम्हें. Whatever doubts you guys are having in related to markets, please do ask. BTC running with 500 points add on quality. Great job. तू या इधर रहे या वहां रहे? दोनों जगह में क्या कर रहा है? Sir, how to train the mind? Very simple. Don't complicate things. You know, 150 pips is my basic target. When there is a basic target and maneuver completion and continuity about 200 pips, what you will be doing? You will be following MTS. When you follow MTSL, only one thing will come into your mind is train to make it sit calmly. और कुछ नहीं. इतना calmly बिताओ कि you will be just focusing till the targets are hit of the mathematical calculations. उससे एक कदम ऊपर भी नहीं, एक कदम नीचे भी नहीं. मैथमेटिकल कैलकुलेशंस तक का ट्रेड ऑफ अलोकेशन लेके बैठ सकते. सिंपल एज दैट. Don't overcomplicate things. Sir, is there anyone who can assist in doing back testing? लाइव स्ट्रीम चल रहा है, राइट? कोई भी डाउट्स है पूछते रहो, बताते रहूंगा. उससे ज्यादा इजीएस्ट बैक टेस्टिंग जॉब और कौन करेगा बोलो? वेंकट. Most confined way of looking into it. सर यहाँ से मार्केट ऊपर ही आएगा, करेक्ट? आना तो चाहिए. नोटिफिकेशन देखो. Buying pressure, buying pressure. Every candle has a buying pressure. Buying pressure, buying pressure, buying pressure. सबको नीचे की तरफ बिठाने के बाद अभी ऊपर के लिए मूवमेंट आना शुरू हुआ. So first allocation point will be in perspective of the next. Sir, LTD members are sitting with you or trading from different places. भाई मेरा खुद का आता पता नहीं रहता है आज कहाँ पे हूँ कल कहाँ पे रहूंगा. We do it on Zoom. You allocate the segregation point movement action plan into the play in BTC. Okay. Sir, one more question in POI zone. When to select the only POI zone and when to select the whole supply and demand area? You explained it last day but unable to get it. That's totally fine. I didn't get it. First of all, POI range should match with your previous POI range, right? With the previous POI range, whenever there is a break and continuity in the single direction, right? Then you will look for the entire supply market, right? When you see a proper rejection perspective towards the short, that point of time you will look for a supply allocation of POI or a demand allocation of a POI. Okay, not prior to that. Okay, Usman. We crossed the sales over 1.5 lakhs of books in European continent, 0 to million in just 1 week. तुमने ही पूछा, उसके लिए बताया मैंने। थैंक यू सर। आप पूछते नहीं तो मैं बताता ही नहीं। एंड द response is just beautiful of this. एक चीज बताओ, ये टीटीएस कॉन्सेप्ट का जो बुक लॉन्च कर रहे हैं ना, उसमें आप लोगों को एग्जांपल्स चाहिए क्या? टीटीएस कॉन्सेप्ट का जो बुक लॉन्च होने वाला है, उस बुक में डू यू वांट द एग्जांपल्स ऑफ द चार्ट एज वेल, कि हाउ डू यू लुक इनटू द पर्सपेक्टिव, or else just the explanation with a proper allocation point is enough? Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Varun, Asma, Ritesh, Nilesh, Asma. Thank you. नहीं वर्षा, ऐड कर दो. It will be easier for the charts. ऐड कर दो. That could be great to understand easy. Okay, Naveen. नहीं, what we'll do this time, we will ask the price what our family members are easy to do. Examples include कर दो. Okay, we'll do that. वर्षा पोल डाल दो. This time we will not fix the price. Publication will not fix the price. Let them fix the price. I could help to It could help to understand, but people will skip the back testing then. Sir, you are always in millions. We are in rupees. So change your mindset, Venkat. And किसी का तो doubt था. Gold, I have bought it 3 days back at the very high price. What did market do? 95,000 तक आ गया ना. किसी का तो था वो doubt. And ये तो अभी शुरुआत है. The correction is yet to complete fully. There is one poll, guys. You can price my book. Sir, we want from basic terms and their explanation and detailed back testing from where the supply and demand is to be picked to test and considered for the forward trading. एक चीज समझाता हूँ तुम्हें वेंकट. Always remember one thing, right? If I give the entire knowledge in the book, you guys will not be able to capture it. Always remember that. Why you guys will not be able to always capture it? Because structure changes every 3 months, right? And if I give you the entire knowledge in a book in a coming week, just take as an example in a May month, what will you do in September? What will you do in Jan again, right? So this book will be totally based on the lifetime accessories which will be followed through the major quarterly allocations what will come into the markets, right? With that, definitely when you do the back testing, with the back testing, continuity of forward testing, with the continuity of forward testing, you will understand the process. Then you guys will automatically identify what happens in quarters, right? So that action plan will be taken under the consideration of normal movement plan. Okay. So that is the structure what you have to be following, right? Because we are not cut copy pasting anything which has been thought over there in the markets for last certain decades, right? So yes. ना मेरे को बीटीसी में अभी इंटरेस्ट है, ना मेरे को गोल्ड में अभी इंटरेस्ट है एड ऑन के लिए. मैं एड ऑन तभी देखूंगा जब मेरे हिसाब से मेरे रिस्क टू रिवॉर्ड में यहाँ पे स्ट्रक्चर बिल्ड करेगा, उससे पहले नहीं. Okay, hope you understood what I'm trying to say, Venkat. आज कॉपीराइट मिल जाएगी. So my team will take 3 days max to deploy the charts into the book. Expect the book launch to be on upcoming Tuesday or Thursday. वर्षा, इसमें पब्लिकेशन कॉस्ट क्यों डाला तुमने? Never put the publication cost here. Okay, रहने दो अभी, कुछ नहीं कर सकते. Sir, for live subscribers, give free PDF copy. भाई जिंदगी फ्री में गुजारना चाहते हो क्या वेंकट? Book will be delivered to India, right? Yes, yes, Naveen, it will be delivered to India. बैक टेस्टिंग करते वक्त जो भी डाउट्स आ रहे हैं, न्यू मेंबर्स प्लीज डू आस्क. नवीन, प्लीज डू आस्क द डाउट्स. राइट, जो भी लोग लाइव एनालिसिस स्टेज में हैं, जो भी लोग फॉरवर्ड एनालिसिस स्टेज में हैं, रिले बार एनालिसिस स्टेज, make sure you guys write down the doubts. While writing down the doubts, let me know where you're lagging behind. Good morning, Sandy. Ritesh, how is your analysis going on? Sir, can you help me with allocating in 15 minutes for the last swing from 22nd April? Sir, can you help me with allocations in 15 minutes for last swing for 22nd April, 13 to 23rd, 3:30? कौन सा टाइम फ्रेम है? यूटीसी है या इंडियन टाइम फ्रेम? प्लीज लेट मी नो दैट. बेसिकली इट्स दिस प्लान ऑफ एक्शन ओनली. कल की मोमेंट की बात कर रहे हो? 22nd, 22nd, 1 o'clock. One o'clock है ना? Okay, till 23rd, 3:30. Right. To understand this, you have. Did you watch the video of minimality? Ritesh, minimality section complete किया? Yes. When you completed minimality section, what was the plan of action at the first current stage? एक second, मैं हटा देता हूँ. Okay. So at the current stage of action, what do we notice over here? The previous demand, right? Because market was in the bullish movement. With the bullish movement, market tend to create a plan of action, right? What will be the plan of action which will be working over here? The plan of action will be previous demand will convert it into current demand, right? With the current demand action plan, in yesterday's scenario, if you notice, we had taken it with the wick because we didn't had a break of structure, right? With there was no break of structure, market took a rejection from 100%, right? With the 100%, what did we do over here? Reallocation of the structure which was taken in the place for next 100% point, right? So this was the plan of action of the consecutive move in the direction of retracement. Post retracement, what did we notice? We had a minimality M2 zone over here, correct? With the minimality M2 zone over here, what was the plan of action that you will be looking? This was your M2 zone, right? With the M2 zone, Where was your demand? This was your demand range. When this was your entire demand range, what did market tend to do over here? Market gave a break, correct? When the market gave a break, what will retailer plan to do at this point? Look for a long trade, right? When there is a long trade entry of a retailer, what is the first plan of action the market will tend to do? The market will tend to do an allocation of a hunt, which is liquidity grab, right? With the liquidity grab, M3 setup got created. When M3 setup got created, always the first action plan will be of 100%, correct? So in this scenario, this was my entire demand plan of action, which will be in the circumstances of the movement. What do we notice? Do we have a 100%? With the 100% closure, we had a rejection. What was the rejection point at this current stage? The rejection point was of 80 pips, right? With this plan of action, what is the next step that we'll be looking? There is a continuity as well. In the continuity, first action step was taken under the consideration of 150, right? With the 150 allocation point, when there is a M3 scenario built, what is the plan of action you will be having? Will you be waiting till this point? No, you will allocate a supply range of action. The supply range of action will be always taken in consideration of POI range, because this was my POI range at this stage, and POI range should be always as per the previous POI range of action plan, correct? So in this scenario, where was my previous POI? This was my previous POI, right? With the previous POI, did it work in my current state? Yes, right? It worked in my current state. When it worked in my current state, this movement of minimality M2, how did it consider in the movement action plan? This was my supply. With the supply, the action will get concluded in the movement plan. With the conclusion of a movement plan, 200% rejection, correct? So this was my action plan towards the long with the action towards M2 scenario. Once the M2 scenario was created, what will be the next plan of action? The retracement. Retracement, always the first action plan will be of supply. What do we notice over here? The 100% rejection. Definitely there was a movement. If you want, you can look for 150%, right? The market tend to take a supply rejection from 150%. With the 150% rejection, will you be waiting for this M2 scenario completion? No, because this is a M3 scenario which you will be working in minimality. What will you be doing over here? You will be taking a new demand action plan all put together, right? This is your new demand. When the new demand of M3 is generated, the first action plan will be of 100%. Did the market take the rejection from 100%? Right? With the 100% rejection plan, what is the next step of action that we'll be working over here? The next step of action will be worked in consideration of the previous. In this scenario, this is my entire new supply, which will act as my current, right? We had a rejection. With the rejection and the continuity, what do we notice? We have a 150% breakthrough, right? With the breakthrough of 150%, what did market tend to do? Market tend to continue the movement. Where will be the allocation point again? The market allocation point will be from the rejection perspective. With the rejection perspective, what do we notice? There is a rejection above 50%. Then the minimality one is created. With the minimality one creation, market tend to continue till 150% and 200% plan of action, right? When there was a 150 and 200% plan of action, what is the step action plan that you will be looking for? A closure, 150%. With the 150% closure, you will look for 200% closure, right? All the time when the M1 scenario is generated, 150% first rejection. With the first rejection perspective, the rejection and continue towards 200%, right? When there is a 200% rejection, what will be your next plan of action? Okay, you know the mathematical concept number was also at 3416, and the mathematical M2 was at 3390. With that plan of action, new surplus demand will be in the act, wherein the entire movement action plan to the previous, right? So this is the action plan which will be taken under the consideration at the current, with the current action plan reallocation of the structure. So this is my entire movement which I will be allocating with the retracement, right? With the retracement action plan, what do we notice? We have a rejection at 100% supply. When there is a rejection at 100% surplus, the market tend to continue towards the long, and then the market with the M2 scenario, it's coming down. Okay. So this is the plan of action what you will be following through with the minimality. Okay. With the minimality plan of action, what are the next steps that you will be working for? The next steps you will be working for, there was a first time in the history wherein market tend to give a very big gap down opening, correct, in the live markets. So what you will be doing at this stage, you will be allocating a new demand allocation for the same. So screen lag, screen struck, cursor moving, 5 minutes screen froze, could not see the cursor moving, screen struck. No worries, फिर से एक्सप्लेन कर देंगे. ये YouTube भी क्या करता है भगवान जाने. Okay, so give me a moment, I'll re-explain it to you. वर्षा, सर्वर चेंज करो. Don't worry, I will give you a re-explanation. Okay, wait. Guys, is there a lag still? स्ट्रीम रुक गया है सर. This is not our problem. This is YouTube problem. We changed the server also. FPS is also at 60, then why not? 2 minute रुकते हैं guys. I'll start explaining it to you again. Don't worry. जैसे ही start होगा बता देना. I will re-explain it to you guys. Cursor is moving only. You will see the disclaimer, right? If the disclaimer is moving, then the stream is working fine, right? If the disclaimer is not moving smoothly, then there is a lag in the system. And this is purely YouTube mistake. Our server is running without lag. Playback speed increase कर दो. It's working fine now. Playback speed 2 को रख लेना. The stream is working fine now. Yes, now it's working without lag, right? So let's do the analysis again. Okay. From the starting point, what is the first step action plan that you guys will be working? right? Allocation of this demand. Why? Because market continued the movement. With the continuum of the movement, you will always check the retracement point as per the previous, correct? When you check the retracement as per the previous, what do we notice? The first movement plan of action will be taken under the consideration of body because there is no break of structure, right? With this plan of action, what will be the next step which will be taken under the consideration? Because we have 100% retracement, we will look for a second demand of a action plan, right? With the second demand of action plan, what are the next steps which will be taken under the consideration, right? You will just mark and keep the entire demand range. With the entire demand range, where is the POI range of act? The POI range will be taken under the consideration of previous, correct? In this scenario, this is my previous POI range of action plan, which will be taken under the consideration for the current, right? Is it exactly with the same plan of action which we wanted? Yes. Right? With this plan of action, POI range ka movement ke saath, we will take the first movement of the POI range. 100% completion. With the 100% completion, what will be the step that we'll be looking for? We'll be looking for 150 to 100% rejection. Do we have a 200% rejection over here? Yes, we do have a 200% rejection. And this was our M2 minimality zone of action plan, right? With the M2 minimality zone of action plan, what is the first step which will be working here? The entire demand of M3 will be taken in consideration for the first, right? What do we notice? We notice a break and continue wherein there was a rejection of 80 pips with the 80 pips continuity in the movement, right? When there was a continuity in the movement, what is the step plan action that you will be following over here? The step plan action will be in consideration of 150% and 200%, right? But in this scenario, what do we notice? We notice that market didn't complete a 200 plan of action, so the market tend to continue the movement action plan as per the POI. Let's take the retracement as per the POI. What do we see? We see a 100% closure with the 100% closure continuity, right? In the continuity of M3, what will be the first plan of action? The entire previous demand of M3 zone will act as my new demand allocation for M3 because M3 is always taken under the consideration of two targets. In this scenario, my target 1 was completed. With target 1, my target 2 was completed, right? With the completion of target 2, what did market tend to do? Market took a retracement. Retracement plan of action will be always as perspective of the previous supply, right? When this supply got into the action plan, what is the first step that market tend to showcase? Market tend to showcase a movement with the movement continuity of 100% break and structural build, right? With the structural build, what is the step plan of action that we'll be looking over here? The step plan of action will be looked at 150%, right? With the 150% rejection, what is the next step? The entire new demand which you are taken at target 2 will act as your new circumstantial movement, right? When the new circumstantial movement was taken under the consideration, what is the first step action plan? Market took a rejection above 50%, so minimality M1 was created again. With the M1 minimality creation, market tend to move till 150%. If you notice, the market took a rejection at 150%. With the 150%, market tend to complete 200%, right? With 200% completion, there was a break of mathematical number, there was a break of minimality. At this point of action, what we'll be doing? We will be marking the entire movement action plan of the surplus demand, right? From the demand 1 of minimality till the wick creation of the buying will be your surplus demand. So we have taken the surplus demand and surplus demand will act post the last retracement. So in this scenario, this was my last retracement point with the last retracement point execution, right? So with this execution point of interest, always you have to remember one thing, that market will definitely take a rejection in perspective of your surplus demand or supply. Once that surplus demand or supply is completed, then you see a action plan completion in the movement structure. right? In this scenario, this was a 100% breakthrough. With the 100% breakthrough, the market continued the structure, right? With the structure plan of action, what do you notice? The notification of the movement is always in particular to the conversions, correct? So in this conversion, what do we see? The entire supply was taken under the consideration of the previous. With the previous, the movement action plan, which will be taken under the consideration over here. With the consideration, what do we see? A minimality zone of action. With the minimality zone of action, the structure movement. With the structure movement, 200% rejection, right? So these are the plan of actions which took in the consecutive movement action plan and continued the structure. With the continuity of the structure, market is at 150% rejection point. Okay. Any doubts, Ritesh? Stream will be there for next 15 minutes. Whatever doubts you guys are having, please do ask. No, sir. Understood it clearly. Great. That is due to problem, Ritesh. My encoder is working perfectly fine. सप्लाई एंड डिमांड में वो वीडियो है, जाके चेक कर लीजिए भरत. ओके. आज ही स्ट्रक हुआ है. सो बैड. नवीन, अगर आप स्ट्रीम पे हो. नवीन कुमार. You will be noticing how does the movement work actually in Indian markets. Is it still in our zone range of action plan? Right? So this is how the structures work. ना मैं यहाँ पे कुछ change किया हो, ना यहाँ पे मैं कुछ बदला हो. It's all the same, correct? So yes, give yourself some time. You guys will also be able to capture these movements. I mean, it's mapping these movements, capturing. Capturing is happening here, man. Lovely. Can someone tell me in which playlist does M1, M2, M3 concept were explained? Supply and demand. So supply and demand में last one. In which playlist does M1, M2, and M3 concept were discussed? I said you right. Supply and demand. The last new latest video in supply and demand section. Not interested at the current stage. लाइव में एक ही ट्रेड लिया है, वो भी S2B1 के साथ, राइट। उससे पहले दो ट्रेड एग्जीक्यूट हुआ है, एक लॉन्ग के लिए 3320 के साथ, उसके बाद एक शॉर्ट के लिए 3380 के साथ, and that too it is running with 150 pips only. So bad. Basic target. एक चीज everyone keep in mind, what is the previous POI range and action plan that shouldn't be working same over here. Okay. अगर ये जोन के अंदर जब तक है तब तक के लिए नो प्लान ऑफ एक्शन।